Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
What if you or a loved one had to go in a nursing home? Could you afford such an event? Stay tuned as a special guest is here in the studio to help us deal with that very issue.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money. The WorryFree Retirement, with offices in Louisville, Bowling Green, and Lexington. Your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist, 5-time author, and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Over the past 35 years, I have literally worked with thousands of people on retirement and estate planning needs. One of the many frustrations I've run into, particularly because so many of our clients are aging, is this common fear and legitimate fear of running out of money due to a nursing home stay. Well, up until the last couple of years, we've really had no solutions up until now, as we have a special guest in our studio for the entire half hour. His name is Tom Krause with the Krause Agency all the way from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Mr. Krause and his agency specialize in something called Medicaid crisis planning, and we are very, very fortunate to have you in our studio, Tom. Thank you for coming down, taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today.
Well, thank you, Tony. I appreciate you having us here.
You know, I think about how we met you. In our offices is Heather Hughes. Heather is also a fiduciary along with other staff and myself, but I sent Heather out to Las Vegas recently because there was going to be a conference on dealing with Medicaid planning, something we're running into more and more. She came back. I said, by the way, Heather, if you meet anybody out there that deals in this specific area that could help us, that we could partner with, please let me know. And she said, I found, I think, just the agency, Tom Krause, this gentleman. You met Heather, right, out in Vegas?
Yep. We met at the CMP event, which is a Certified Medicaid Planner Symposium. Mm-hmm. So it's an organization that teaches elder law attorneys and financial advisors on some of these strategies and products for the Medicaid program.
So tell us a little bit about your firm out of Green Bay, how you all got started. And you really kind of have two different sets of clients that you work with.
Sure.
Obviously financial advisors such as myself, but tell everybody a little bit about your organization and where you're usually brought into this situation.
Sure. Well, we've been in the space about approximately 25 years. We developed some of the first Medicaid compliant annuity products brought to market. We're founded by an elder law attorney, an estate planning attorney who, developed these products when he put together the perfect estate plan for his clients. Once the nursing home came into the picture, it destroyed the estate plan. So he researched the Medicaid rules, found that an annuity product could be the solution to spend down assets and qualify for benefits. So again, we're located in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We have a staff of 25. We work in 48 states. We work with financial advisors on one side of our business, and we also work with elder law attorneys on the other.
And we're going to get into these annuities. And again, folks, before you get all nervous and go, oh gosh, he's going to talk about annuities. This is why I'm so excited, because the annuity world that I'm in, fixed interest, fixed indexed annuities, as you know, we do a lot of annuities. We're known around the country for the amount of annuities we do, but we don't specialize in these type of annuities. And we're going to get into these later in the show. But I guess with those annuities, why is there so many misconceptions about how annuities work in the retirement planning process like we do versus the type of annuities you use?
Sure. Well, the standard annuity that utilized in retirement, that's going to be a different end goal. The goal there is to not outlive your income. The goal with a Medicaid compliant annuity is it's a very specific product that we use as a tool as part of a spend down plan. So we're spending down for accelerated eligibility for the Medicaid program, and as part of that, we want to preserve assets in that process.
So again, stick around, folks. In the last segment, we're actually going to have Tom use an example to show you how to save a lot of money should an event like this occur. But let's kind of look at some stats here. I know you sent this to us. One of the stats we share a lot, Tom, is this very stat. The very fact that all of us baby boomers, now I'm a little older than you, I'm a baby boomer. You don't look like you're a baby boomer, are you? No, okay. But all of us baby boomers, 10,000 each day, each and every day, will turn 65. Well, let's just talk about that a minute, the influx of all these people retiring and living longer and what that can do in terms of your chances of going into a nursing home.
Well, yeah, the statistics are there. 70% of individuals will require some form of long-term care in their lifetime, whether that's at the home, an assisted living facility, or ultimately at the nursing home. And that's what we're here to talk about today, is how do we pay for the costs associated to a nursing home stay.
I want to keep going through some of these statistics we've got behind us, Tom. What are some more very relevant statistics our viewers need to understand?
Well, like you said, 70% of seniors will require some form of long-term care in their lifetime. What we're concerned about is the nursing home care. So the average individual is going to stay in a nursing home an average of 2.3 years. But that's a scary statistic because of the costs. On average, across the country, the average cost of care in a nursing home facility is $7,441 per month. So it's really hard for families to have to write that check each and every month. It's a bigger check than they've written for a mortgage. It's a bigger check than they've written for any tuition bills. So, and the statistics are scary as far as how many people end up going broke or exhausting their entire life savings having to write that check each and every month.
I think that's a good point you make because, in our business, we're usually sending checks out. So, we're retirement planning specialists. We send checks. People love that. But that's an interesting point. To physically write a check every month for $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, I mean, that's got to be, and also, I guess, my father died in a nursing home. It's almost like, how long am I going to have to write this check, right?
Yeah, most people, you don't have to be a CPA to understand writing that check each and every month, you're going to go broke within a certain amount of time. So families are worried. They're in a panic. And that's why we refer to this as crisis planning, because it ultimately is a crisis when a family is asked to write that check each and every month. And the statistics are scary. 50% of couples will exhaust their entire life savings within 1 year of entering the nursing home, and 75% of individuals will exhaust their entire life savings within 1 year of entering the nursing home.
Thank goodness. Let's talk about, we have a viewership in Kentucky and Indiana. Let's talk about the average cost in Kentucky and Indiana compared to the national average.
Sure. You guys are lucky. It's a little bit lower than the national average, but still significant. In Kentucky, it's $6,844 per month, whereas in Indiana, it's a little bit more expensive at $6,859 per month, but still below the national average.
We had a special guest a couple of months on, and she used to work in a nursing home as an administrator. She said there's also a lot more fees coming on board. She used the example, people are now bringing additional personnel in to just sit with their parents, and they pay for that, or medication. So that's just, these numbers you're just quoting of the nursing home themselves, right?
Sure.
Not the ancillary costs that could arise.
So room and board, medication, just the traditional things that would be part of a custodial stay.
All right, so we got the cost here. It's not cheap, right? We got Kentucky, Indiana, whatever. I mean, these are expensive costs. My question is, and I'm sure the audience is saying, well, that's great, Tom. Who in the world is going to pay for this? What are our options here?
Sure. Well, there's a few primary payers of long-term care in America. The first one being some other public programs, which would be the Medicare and VA program. There's a big misconception out there that the Medicare program will pay for somebody's nursing home stay, and that's simply not the case. Medicare is really designed for acute care. So think a broken hip. When you're under a doctor's orders, Medicare will pick up to 100 days in a nursing home facility with a copay.
So even though I've paid all this, quote, money into the Medicare system, it's not meant to cover long-term care.
No,
okay.
It is not. Next would be other private, and this is products such as long-term care insurance.
Which we sell those types of products, which are very expensive.
Very expensive. It's a great product if you purchase it at the right time, but most people, they fail to purchase it when it's cost-effective and when they can actually be underwritten for the policies.
Well, we have them come in here and they're very deathly ill and they want to buy a policy.
That's usually when they want the policy.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't get it then.
Sure.
Okay, all right.
Next would be out-of-pocket, and most people end up paying out-of-pocket by default because they don't know there's any other solution, so they continue to write those checks each and every month. Finally, Medicaid, which is the primary payer of long-term care expenses, nursing home long-term care expenses in America, covering 62.2%. And Medicaid is the primary payer of long-term care expenses in the United States.
Interesting. So I tell you what we're going to do, folks. We're going to take a break, get our thoughts organized here, and we're going to come back and explain more details of what Medicaid is, the different assets, and because this is really important stuff. What's recoverable, what's not, what's counted, income, assets, good stuff coming up. You're watching the WorryFree Retirement. We're with special guest Tom Krause from the Krause Agency out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. We'll be right back.
Tired of the financial world chasing after your money? Dinner seminar invitations? Annoying pop-up ads on your computer from out-of-state advisors? It all adds up to confusion. There is a better way. Meet in person with nationally recognized retirement specialist Tony Walker. Tony's personal one-on-one approach has helped thousands of savers worry less about money, and best of all, Tony's right in our own backyard. Don't leave your retirement to chance. Make the short drive to meet in person with Tony now. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a buyout? Has the company you work for recently moved or been acquired or closed its doors forever? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k to safer territory. Why continue to risk your hard-earned money when you don't have to? Let's meet in person today to discuss your retirement options. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your no-obligation appointment to meet with me in person. Do it today. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. In case you're just joining us today, we are talking about an issue that probably nobody wants to talk about, and that's having to be forced to go into a nursing home, either yourself, a spouse, a parent, a very traumatic event nonetheless, but one that a lot of people are having to deal with. We're having to deal with it more and more in our practice, and that's why we've brought in all the way from Green Bay, Wisconsin, Mr. Tom Krause with the Krause Agency, and it's been some good stuff. So we got to jump right back into it. You got the whole show, but we got a lot to cover. Medicaid. It's a unique animal. Talk to us a little bit about Medicaid. You all work in, what, 48 states?
Correct.
Let's get into Medicaid briefly.
Yep, it's a joint federal and state program, so it's designed to pay for those long-term care expenses we talked about, the custodial stay, the pharmaceuticals, room and board, things of that nature. So like you said, it is a unique beast in the fact that each state, despite having the federal rules, adopted the federal rules, there's little nuances to the planning in each individual state.
I understand. And also, we've got to get into this non-financial and financial criteria. Let's get into that. Now we're getting into the meat of this whole thing.
Well, yeah, like you said, there's both non-financial and financial requirements to qualify for Medicaid. First, the non-financial requirements are pretty straightforward. You have to be a U.S. citizen or qualified alien, 65 years of age or disabled. Finally, you have to be a resident of a Medicaid-approved facility and a Medicaid-approved bed.
Can I interrupt you there?
Yes.
Yeah, how do you know if a facility, do you just call them and say, hey, do you have any beds, or are you Medicaid approved?
Yes.
Let's say mom breaks a hip and this is a serious deal. What do you do?
Sure. Yeah, typically you want to find a placement for mom or dad to ensure that you are in a facility that's going to allow Medicaid, and you want to be in the correct room type, because it's going to be generally 2 to a room for a Medicaid-approved facility. So if they're in a single room, that's not going to work for the Medicaid program.
Okay, good deal. Next slide here.
So the next are the financial requirements. This is where most people get confused, are the financial requirements to qualify. There's really 2 tests under the financial requirements umbrella. The first is the income test. And the income for the Medicaid applicant, so whether they're alone in this world or they have a spouse at home, they just cannot have income that exceeds the private pay cost of the nursing home facility.
Okay, so let's stop there. So husband goes into a nursing facility. The nursing facility cost is $7,000 a month, and he's got pension income, Social Security of $10,000 a month. That'd be unlikely,
yes,
but that's
exactly.
Yeah.
That's usually not an issue because
Okay.
most people don't have income above that.
So that's
threshold.
nothing really for most people to worry
Sure.
about.
So
okay.
when we talk about income, we're talking Social Security, pension, things of that nature. Next, if there is a spouse at home, there's some beauty to the rules here. There's no limit on the amount of income the healthy spouse can have in their name.
Wow.
There is, however, a floor. So if we go below that floor, we're going to be able to shift over income from the unhealthy spouse to get them up to that lower threshold.
Okay.
And Medicaid really designed that to help ensure that the community spouse is not impoverished, having to pay for
That makes sense.
care
I
for
see.
the
Okay.
unhealthy spouse.
I like whoever came up with that rule.
Yes.
That's good. Yeah.
So the next financial requirement to qualify for Medicaid is the asset test. And the asset test for a Medicaid applicant, whether they're alone in this world or they have a community spouse at home, they are only allowed to retain $2,000 or less of countable assets. So a very low threshold. Next, if there is a spouse at home, they're allowed to keep a separate amount known as the Community Spouse Resource Allowance, and they're allowed to keep up to $126,420. Again, this goes to the fact that we don't want to impoverish the community spouse by having to pay for the institutionalized spouse's care. So when we look at exempt assets, these are going to be things like irrevocable funeral expense
And by the way,
trusts.
we do those now.
Yes.
Yeah, so folks, this is something we can help you with, the irrevocable funeral expense trust, and we have a company that does that, does not charge a fee for the trust. I did want to throw that in, but go ahead.
Yeah, so irrevocable funeral expense trust up to $15,000 for both spouses. That's going to be exempt for Medicaid purposes. They can have one vehicle, whether it's a Toyota or a Mercedes-Benz. They can have one.
Oh, there's not a
vehicle.
limit on the cost?
There's typically not a limit on the cost of the vehicle.
That's interesting.
Personal property, so things found in the average home.
Would that include jewelries and collectibles? Can they?
Yeah, as long as there's not a title. If they're purchasing their items at Christie's auction house, that might not work. Things you would find in the average household. And then finally, the primary residence is an exempt asset. And this is the biggest misconception, or the biggest one that people are concerned about. So if there's a married couple, there's a spouse at home, they're going to be able to exempt the house. There's no limit on the amount the house is worth. So they can have
a $2 million home. Mama-san can still stay there.
As long as she resides in the home, it's totally exempt.
Okay.
If there is an individual, the home is exempt under two conditions. The value of the home must be less than the $585,000, and they have to have the intent to return home. So this is simply an affidavit stating that if they were to improve, they want to return to the family home.
So what if they don't return? What if they don't improve?
There's not an issue with that. It's just the intent to return home. But most single individuals, the problem with maintaining the household is how do they maintain those costs associated with it. So it's most likely better off just to sell the home and deal with the cash assets.
Okay, which you all could do, right, in the planning process?
Yes.
Okay.
Next are the countable assets. So these are the assets we're more concerned about having to do something with. These are the checking accounts, savings accounts, money market, cash, life insurance policies with cash value above certain thresholds, second vehicles or personal property or second properties. So these are the countable assets. These are the assets that we're going to have to do something with if we have too many of them.
And as you know, we do a lot of annuities, tax-deferred annuities, and this is one reason I sent Heather out there to Las Vegas. You know, we were having people go to elder care attorneys that specialize in this, which is fine, and they'd come back to us and they said, Tony, we're getting instructed that we were going to have to sell those annuities, even if we had surrender charges, and put them in different type of annuities.
Sure.
So that is sometimes you have to do that, correct?
Yep, because a tax-deferred annuity, as we'll talk about later in the program, is not going to work with the Medicaid program.
Good
so that's
point.
going to be a countable asset.
Okay, good deal.
The other question, aside from the home, is what about IRAs or qualified
Which is, you know,
accounts?
as I told you before the show, this is a big deal for most people have 401ks, IRAs in this area. Okay.
The beauty in Kentucky is IRAs are exempt for both spouses. So the community spouse or the institutionalized spouse are totally exempt. So Medicaid is not even going to consider them when they're looking at their asset base needing to be spent down. This differs from Indiana, which just passed a new rule that's going into effect this summer, that now both spouses' IRA accounts are going to be countable.
Now, realtors watching the show in Kentucky are expecting a flood of people to move down here from Indiana for this, right?
Sure. Well,
just kidding, folks.
Yeah. So again, if you're going to be placed in a nursing home facility, you probably want to be in Kentucky if you have a large IRA.
Good point.
So one question that we get often is, well, can I just gift away my assets or give them away? Well, the answer to that is no, because Medicaid, when you go to apply, they're going to ask you, have you made any gifts or transfers of assets within the last 60 months? And if you have, they're going to total up those gifts or transfers, and they're going to assess a penalty period where you're going to be ineligible to receive benefits for a certain amount of time. So you simply can't just give away your assets and qualify.
Good deal.
So what can we do with those countable assets, knowing if we have assets in above those asset limitations we talked about earlier? Well, you can pay off mortgages, credit card debt, any financial planner bills, attorney bills. You can also purchase or improve those exempt assets we talked about.
Okay,
so you can improve the family home, put a new roof on the home. You can upgrade the vehicle. You can improve the household furnishings to make the home more comfortable or safe. And then finally, after we've done all of those things, if we still have countable assets above those limitations we talked about, that's when the annuity would come into play.
Okay, good deal. And I'm watching the time. Aaron's kind of giving me the fist like, Tony, we got to save some time because when we come back, folks, good stuff. Normally, I'm the one getting out the whiteboard. We're going to have Tom use the whiteboard only once. This is a freebie, Tom. Tom's going to get the whiteboard out, show you a case of how a Medicaid-compliant annuity could save you possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars due to this Medicaid crisis we're talking about. Stay tuned. You're watching the WorryFree Retirement. Let's get the whiteboard out, Tom.
Excellent.
Sound good?
Yes.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Do you have a 401k, IRA, thrift savings account, 403b, or lump sum pension that you'd like to move to safer territory? Did you know that all the money you see on your 401k statement isn't really yours? Depending on your overall taxable income, the government has essentially a lien on your 401k that can tax as much as 40% of your money when you go to take it out. Tony Walker calls this the 401k tax tumor. For over 33 years, retirement specialist Tony Walker has helped thousands of savers worry less about money by creating game plans to deal with your tax tumor. Get control of your retirement by controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a buyout? Has the company you work for recently moved or been acquired or closed its doors forever? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k to safer territory. Why continue to risk your hard-earned money when you don't have to? Let's meet in person today to discuss your retirement options. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your no-obligation appointment to meet with me in person. Do it today. Yourself, a spouse, mom, dad, has to go into a nursing home. We're in crisis mode here. What do we do to try to preserve some of these assets? We've got Tom Krause, Medicaid Planning Specialist. Tom, you're on. How do we do this?
Well, Tony, let's take a look at an example that we would commonly see. Here we have a husband and wife. So we have the husband, he's the institutionalized spouse. He's the spouse.
That would be this person here, right?
Correct.
Okay.
He's the spouse in the nursing home. He has $1,200 per month in monthly income. We have the wife at home. She's the community spouse. She has income of $1,000 per month. The big concern here is the cost of care. The nursing home bill each month for the husband is $7,500. So they have some concerns about how do we cover this bill with our limited income. Well, the first step here is we're going to determine what's excluded of this calculation, the Medicaid calculation, then what's countable. So like we said before in the program, the home is going to be excluded for the benefit of the wife. The vehicle is going to be excluded for the benefit of the wife. Personal property, furnishings of the home is going to be excluded. Funeral trusts for both spouses are going to be excluded as well. And let's say this couple has $200,000 in savings. That's going to be the asset that we have to do something with. So if we look at what the community spouse, the wife is allowed to keep, she's allowed to retain $100,000.
What does this stand for, the CSRA?
Community Spouse Resource Allowance.
Okay.
So it's one half of the assets, and that's $100,000. So she's entitled to keep that amount as her resource allowance.
Now, is this limited? This amount of, what if they had $500,000 in savings?
The maximum is $126,420.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
It's one half of the assets up to that limitation.
Okay.
So the community spouse is entitled to keep that amount. The husband, as the individual, is going to be able to keep $2,000 as his individual resource allowance. So the problem assets here, or the spend down amount, is going to be $98,000. So these are the assets we have to do something with to obtain eligibility for Medicaid.
Okay.
So if we take this, what we're going to do, we're going to eliminate this asset by investing it or putting it into a Medicaid compliant annuity.
And in fact, let me tell the folks, if you're just now joining us, this is the type of annuity up until now we could not offer, but we can now. Medicaid compliant annuity. It's not like the traditional fixed index annuities. Go ahead, Tom.
Sure. So we're going to take this Medicaid compliant annuity. We're going to purchase the annuity in the wife's name because, again, we can create unlimited income for the wife.
Okay.
So we're going to invest this $98,000 into a 48-month annuity.
Now, why 48 months? Why did you choose that amount?
Because there's a concern. We want to ensure that the community spouse outlives the term of the annuity.
Okay, gotcha.
Because if they were to predecease the term, there would be a payback to the state up to the amount of benefits paid on the husband.
So a lot of these annuities are short-term, the payouts. You're trying to pay them out over a short period of time in most cases?
In most cases, we want to get the money back or the assets back so then we can put together the asset base.
Okay.
So a 48-month annuity is going to create a monthly payment of approximately $2,050 per month.
That would go to the community spouse that's still at home.
Only to the community spouse. So the community spouse's income is going to increase. We're going to add her Social Security income. So she's going to have total income of $3,050 per month, each and every month. So what did we do here? We eliminated the problem asset. It's now off the accountable asset balance sheet. We've created an income stream of $3,050. And once we qualify the husband for benefits, His nursing home bill is going to go from $7,500 per month down to his monthly income of $1,200, less a small personal needs allowance, which is used for haircuts, things that Medicaid doesn't cover. So the difference here is going to be
maybe $1,100 a month.
Yeah, approximately $1,100 per month.
So let's summarize this. So really what we've done here is we've been able to take these countable assets. I want to use the word shelter, but in a way we have. Those will not have to go to the nursing home.
Correct.
The only thing, the way after this illustration is done and you all implement this, really his Social Security is the only thing that now is going to go to the nursing home.
Correct.
Medicaid will pay the balance.
Medicaid is going to pick up the balance of this bill each and every month.
Okay.
So what do we do here? We preserve the $100,000 for the community spouse as a community spouse resource allowance, and we took the remaining $98,000, which was the problem asset. We structured it into a 48-month Medicaid compliant annuity, which gave the wife $3,050 a month to maintain her lifestyle in the community. And we took this nursing home bill down from $7,500 a month to approximately $1,200, which is the husband's income.
Wow.
So
okay,
huge savings.
So basically now that we've got a working partnership, obviously we're not technically affiliated, but someone sees this show, they're in this predicament, a husband, wife, parent, or whatever. How can we work together? You mentioned there's an asset intake form. People contact our office at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. What will be the next step to go through this procedure?
Yeah, the next step is for, like you said, to fill out that intake form, and then we can get a handle on what assets are excluded, which assets are countable, and then we can make the decision as how do we structure the annuity with the correct investment amount.
And there's no cost to go through the analysis?
No cost whatsoever. It would just be if you were to proceed with the annuity within a certain time frame.
Okay, gotcha. Tom, been great stuff. Thank you for coming all the way down from Green Bay, Wisconsin. I'd like to go to a football game sometime, but you said if I come up there, don't come up there during playoffs?
No, come earlier in the season when the weather is tolerable. So
thanks again,
love
Tom.
to have you.
All right.
Thanks.
Folks, appreciate you joining us. I want to share something with you. We're going to go back to our format, our normal format, where I'll be yakking for a full 30 minutes, don't worry. But next week, coincidentally, we've got another special guest. We've got Heather Schreiber, a Social Security expert known throughout the country. She's out of Atlanta, Georgia. On next week's program, all we're going to talk about is Social Security, and Heather's going to share just like Mr. Krause shared today on his topic. Now, keep in mind, regardless of whether you're retired or retiring soon, Heather is going to be able to help you with many of the common mistakes people are making out there with Social Security. Not only when to claim benefits, but the taxation surrounding these benefits. So again, that's next week on the Worry-Free Retirement with Heather Schreiber. Incidentally, Tom mentioned earlier, if you'd like to go through this process, if maybe you, a spouse, or a loved one is getting ready to go into a nursing home and you need us to look at the assets, just contact us at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Obviously, if you've got retirement planning needs, getting ready to retire, 401ks, back to the retirement planning, obviously that's still our main bailiwick. We would love to meet with you in person to see how we can help you worry less about money. We've enjoyed having you today. Remember to tune in next week when we have Heather Schreiber on to talk about Social Security. But you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.
Thank you for watching the Worry-Free Retirement with Tony Walker. If you need a safe and simple game plan for your retirement, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and schedule a free, no-obligation meeting with Tony.